panel, Democratic strategist Nick Smith, Executive Director of Citizens Union Grace Rao, Democratic strategist Tara Dowdell, and Republican strategist E. O'Brien Murray. So here we go, guys. This is the moment everybody's been waiting for, and let's take a look at the numbers once again for anybody who may just be joining us right now. With about 51% of the vote, we have Zohran Mamdani, 436,000 or so votes, to Andrew Cuomo's 40%, 341,000, 8% for Curtis Sliwa, 38% of the precincts reporting. There's that all-important number of 50%. Now, I know it's early, but he is at 51% with Zohran Mamdani. Nick, let me begin with you and see what you make of these numbers.
If I'm Camp Cuomo, I'm really concerned at this point. You can't have 40% of the vote in and you're down 11 points. You know, there's some 60% out there remaining. And I think this speaks to what Mamdani has done here. He has energized coalitions that I don't think we've seen in quite a while. And, you know, the conventional wisdom is that older voters will flock to Cuomo. Although we'll look at the exit polls and see what happens. What I understand is that Mamdani is doing well among voters over 50. So this may be, in terms of what he did in this election, something that's quite unprecedented in modern New York City elections.
Yeah, it was our last poll at Pix 11 Emerson in the Hill showed that 50+ voters were actually swinging to Mamdani, which was a bit of a change from what they had seen play out earlier in the campaign, with 50+ going towards Cuomo. But when you look at these numbers, O'Brien, for Curtis, not cracking double digits right now. I see you're hard at work at this calculator. What are you adding up over here?
I keep forgetting to add the zero on the 2 million votes. I do 200,000. It doesn't work. But you got 40% of the vote in right now, and he's at 50%. For Andrew Cuomo to pull this out, and the team knows this today. They know who voted in the early voting. They know where they voted, more importantly. And then tonight, when they get these results, they know where it came from. In '93, when I did the Get Out the Vote for Rudy, Frank Luntz gave me the districts to watch for across the city. We knew where we did better than we should have. We outperformed. We were going to get kicked all over the place, and where we're supposed to be even, we were ahead. They know what the results are right now in that room in the back. 42, 43% of the vote in, and you're down 10 points. The next 60%, he's got to get 10% and then split the next 50, 50, 50. He's not even doing that yet. He's going to have to do like 60-something% going forward. The numbers are against him right now.
I think a lot of folks at the Cuomo cutters right now are with you on the calculator.
One of the most impressive things as a campaign guy for Mamdani, forget the message, forget everything else, they're consistent tonight like they were in the primary. Primary night, when the first numbers came out at 9:05 from early voting, that number maintained all the way through the election day numbers. They come through the later numbers we're getting now for results. It's happening again tonight. Mamdani has not just turned out his people early and identified them, he's identified more people to keep turning out on election day. And that, by the way, is the thing to study for every campaign going forward.
O'Brien is giving credit to the Mamdani campaign.
I give credit to Governor Dean earlier, too, sure.
I'm about to fall out of this chair.
We'll pick you up.
Let me go to the point, Grace, because we're talking about ballot proposals at the same time. And ballot 6 is very interesting. Mamdani was a no on it about change in the election year. But if it had been on an election year of a presidential election, do you think we would be seeing this turnout or more?
So we would be seeing more. Potentially, right? Because we see, often 2-3 times the turnout that we get in a local election. Yeah. This one aside, because we've now, we haven't seen cross the 2 million votes cast mark in a local election since 1969.
Do you think people would pay as much attention to it, though? Do you think people would pay much attention to it if you're getting swallowed up by a presidential election?
So here's what I would say before Obi jumps in and tries to cut me off. Let me make my point.
Easy killer.
The idea is, so this election is an outlier and a fantastic outlier because we have seen so much engagement, so many new voters joining the process. This is fantastic, is reinvigorating the civic conversation, people's engagement, our democracy. All of that is great. But before we had today, we had steady declines in local turnout in our races for decades, where fewer than 1 in 4 New Yorkers were participating. That is bad for our democracy. And we know, not the people that are tuning in tonight, not the people at this table, that the vast majority of voters do their homework before they go to the polls. That's why my phone blows up, your phone probably blows up from people. And these are people who are voting already. They're not the ones staying at home. And they are saying, Dan, tell me how I should vote on these ballot proposals. Who should I vote for in these races? Most people do their homework when they go to the polls, and so we know that people are going to the polls in incredibly high numbers during presidential years, and they will do their homework.
Grace, I love you.
Before they go to the polls.
But let's get the other fact out. How much of taxpayers' money is now spent on matching funds, 8 to 1, which is a great system to a point. What's happening, though, is there's so many candidates running, the voter doesn't have a chance to be properly informed. We spend more money on soap and cereal for marketing and getting message across than we do for who the next mayor is. And what happens is now, this mayor, no matter who was going to win today, the amount of money they spend, the $7 or $8 million, I forget what the number was they're allowed to spend, they were capped at, and another, was it 13 or 15 in the primary came in, another 10 plus, came in the general for the messaging. Imagine what happens with all that messaging, how much more the ads cost, great for the TV stations and everybody here at PIX, Dan, but how many other messages are on the TV nobody can cut through? Congressional races, presidential, Senate,
point of order,
governor.
So I hear you, and you brought up money, right? So let me just talk about back to the candidates themselves and the amount of money not only spent on this race, but who the donors were going to certain candidates as well, in terms of billionaires who were backing Andrew Cuomo and putting money into his campaign as well. What does it say just right now about the amount of money, Nick, that we saw raised by all of these candidates? Mamdani hit the threshold way early on to don't even contribute to me anymore.
Nick, where's your paycheck coming from?
That's right. I remember even in the primary when Mamdani finished fundraising, he was helping the Speaker Adams in the primary. So, I think, the 8-to-1 is a great thing for, candidates running for office to get their message out. That's a really fantastic thing. And I think it helps to kind of avoid the whole Citizens United, Dark Monday stuff coming in. That's a good thing for democracy. So in terms of, my thoughts about this 8-to-1 and fundraising,
I do think though that one of the things we were talking about is the fact that billionaires were funding Andrew Cuomo's campaign, and so I think that's something that also hurt Andrew Cuomo amongst many other things. One of the things we talked about a lot here, and other folks have as well, and I'm going to be Captain Obvious, is that at the end of the day, this is about affordability, the ability to afford to live in New York City economics. That's what we're seeing across the country, not just in New York City, in New Jersey, in Virginia, but in New York City in particular because it's so expensive to live here. So when you have a campaign that's funded by mostly billionaires, I think that is also part of what's feeding the narrative around Andrew Cuomo, because even though they are limited, they can give to outside organizations that still exist, and those organizations run ads.
Yes, but to Obi's point, I just want to address your point about the TV ads, because if we learned anything from this election, it is about the diminishing power and influence of television ads to sway voters, right? We had unprecedented, record-breaking
voters. That's what ads do.
Super PAC spending. In the primary, we tracked it at Citizens Union, and most of it, the candidates that it was spent on behalf of did not actually succeed, did not win their races. And Mamdani, who ran a digital forward campaign with a whole network of tens of thousands of volunteers knocking on doors.
Ranked choice voting
that won the day.
For Mamdani. He's a fantastic campaign. I'm giving him credit. But ranked choice voting, right here tonight, we have a moderator, a Democrat, and a former reporter who's a fantastic woman doing the independent stuff too.
Just so you know, numbers just in from the Board of Elections. I have first time since 1969 that we are officially at the 2 million mark for voters in New York City. Board of Elections just putting that out moments ago.
Dan, they did that about 12 minutes.
And that's with votes still coming in.
12 minutes you were on air. 12 minutes before the polls closed, they post that with fireworks on Twitter and stuff like that. So it's greater than 2 million they're doing.
Yeah, well, the numbers are still coming in, that's what I'm saying. So, but it just show you the sheer amount of people who are paying attention to this. And I think there are many factors to it, and you brought up one of them. And we're seeing it both here in New York City, around the country, and in New Jersey on what voters were heading to. And our exit poll in New Jersey showed affordability being top of mind for so many.
Yes.
So when you look at these candidates, who hit the affordability issue?
Mamdani all the way. I mean, if you look at his opponents, like the former governor, I'm not quite sure why he ran for mayor besides an apology tour for his transgressions. Mamdani was clear from day one. Folks can't afford childcare. They can't afford food.
Right.
Gas is too high. So he was clear on messaging. And by the way, notice what he did for candidates. He stayed on message whenever asked what was going on. So he has to be credited for putting affordability front and center in this campaign.
Why did Joe Biden beat Donald Trump? Message on day one was the same message on election day. Why did Eric Adams beat Andrew Yang? Because the message was crime on day one through COVID. Yang was all about COVID. And then on election day, crime was still the issue. Mamdani carried that through. Curtis echoed it a bit. But I believe firmly Andrew Cuomo was his own worst enemy. A Rose Garden strategy, not for anything, following and being against. It doesn't work, orange man bad and going against Trump. You have to be 4 things to win elections. Mamdani was 4 things from day one, and that's what did it.
I agree. I don't think Cuomo had a vision. I'm sorry. I don't think Cuomo had a vision for his campaign. Mamdani was clear from day one. That's why.
You can give him an eye test, and he'd never have vision in this race.
I don't want to, and far be it for me to quote Donald Trump, but also Andrew Cuomo was low energy. I mean, he ran a low energy campaign. And again, I agree 100%. You have to be for something. And the lesson, I think, in all of these elections that we've seen is people want bold ideas. They want a vision, and they want the messenger to deliver it with energy and enthusiasm.
Let me just jump in here for a second. Decision Desk HQ calling Zohran Mamdani declaring the winner of the New York City mayoral race. Courtesy Zohran Mamdani, who is now on the stage waving at his supporters. Let's listen in.
DSA.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. And to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own, I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this: this city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an $11.99 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less. with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight, we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. And deliver universal childcare across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
After the election, and the mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is already getting to work following his historic victory last night.
Yeah, he immediately announced a transition team and is taking a wide range of questions about his agenda, President Trump, and much, much more. Senior political reporter Henry Rossoff here with more on how Mamdani plans to lead. Henry.
And it really was a wide-ranging press conference from the soon-to-be 111th mayor of the city of New York. His transition team includes veterans from both the administration of Mayor de Blasio, maybe surprising to some Mayor Adams. By the way, he still has not spoken to Mayor Adams as of this afternoon. Mamdani also made clear that he'll push back against President Trump, but he will not blame him for every little problem the city faces.
The poetry of campaigning may have come to a close last night at 9, But the beautiful prose of governing has only just begun.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani introduced his transition team in front of the Unisphere in Queens. He says they will be laser-focused on building an ethical, capable City Hall team to deliver the promises he made during the campaign of free buses, universal childcare, and more housing.
Some of these people will have familiar names. Others will not. What will unite them will be a commitment to solving old problems with new solutions.
Helping guide the transition is former First Deputy Mayor to Eric Adams, Maria Torres Springer. Torres Springer, a well-regarded longtime civic leader, resigned when Mayor Adams was accused of cozying up to President Trump to get his corruption case dismissed.
I'm eager to bring that experience, all of the lessons learned, what worked, what didn't, to help the mayor-elect achieve early, tangible wins for New Yorkers.
Mayor-elect Mamdani was also asked repeatedly about standing up to President Trump, who has said he might withhold billions in federal funding from the city and perhaps dispatch the National Guard. Trump mentioned the city's election result during a speech in Miami Wednesday, saying he would, quote, take care of it.
We have a choice between communism and common sense.
Mamdani says he will push back in the courts and on the streets, holding federal agents legally accountable for their actions. How do you balance combating President Trump and not getting lost in that fight to where you are not delivering the campaign promises?
It'll be my job to stand up for the city and also to ensure that we do not look at Washington, D.C. as if it is the reason for all of the problems right here in New York City. Many of the issues we are speaking about, they predate President Trump.
Mamdani says he still has not spoken to President Trump, but does anticipate that call coming relatively soon. He said he'd reiterate much of what he's been saying in public. You know, he'd work with the president on some niche issues of affordability, but would push back against ICE raids, National Guard, and funding cuts. So he says, I'm not going to say one thing behind closed doors and one thing to you in front of the camera.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani says his focus right now is on building an ethical, capable team, one that can actually deliver on the promises he made to voters. On day one, Mamdani made it clear he's assembling a team ready to turn campaign talk into real action.
Some of these people will have familiar names. Others will not. What will unite them will be a commitment to solving old problems with new solutions.
Those solutions, he says, start with his key campaign priorities: free childcare, affordable housing, and tackling the cost of living. Reverend Al Sharpton says that last one struck a chord with voters.
Those kind of kitchen table issues, the core of his campaign, that was only helped by the contrast of what Donald Trump was doing nationally.
Tuesday's election drew a record turnout. More than 2 million New Yorkers cast ballots. According to CNN exit polls, Mamdani won strong support from Asian voters, about 62%, and half of white voters. Black and Latino voters each made up roughly 17% of his base. And while the mayor-elect is celebrating his win, he's already facing questions about President Trump's warning to withhold federal funds and even deploy the National Guard.
It'll be my job to stand up for the city and also to ensure that we do not look at Washington, D.C. as if it is the reason for all of the problems right here in New York City. Many of the issues we are speaking about, they predate President Trump.
Reverend Al Sharpton says what we saw in Tuesday's elections, from Virginia and New Jersey to California and right here in New York, says a lot about how people are feeling right now.
I think it represents a real outrage by many New Yorkers that was also representative around the country of how we're being governed.
Mayor-elect Mamdani said he has not spoken to President Trump and added he isn't opposed to do it, and at some point they would end up talking. And by the way, he takes over office in January 1st.
Pure joy here inside the Brooklyn Paramount, which has been transformed into the election night victory celebration for 34-year-old Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. The Democratic Socialist will be the youngest mayor since 1889, when we had a gentleman who was 31 years old assume office. Let me show you this crowd and this celebratory atmosphere we're seeing here. We are seeing borough presidents. We are seeing members of Congress. There was a big gaggle with with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a huge booster for Mamdani since about halfway through the primary. In speaking with the Mamdani campaign, they were feeling good going into tonight. We've seen record-breaking turnout here in New York City, expected to exceed 2 million voters, perhaps landing in the 2.2 million range. They say that represents a lot of new, young voters that are excited about Mamdani's vision of universal child care, fast and free buses, government-run grocery stores, taxing millionaires, taxing corporations. And if this vote total stays where it is at now, with Mamdani having more than 50% of the vote, that would certainly speak to a potential mandate he has in Albany to get that done. So we are awaiting Mamdani to address the crowd. There's a DJ, people are still trickling in. People are very excited, they're getting a drink. They're packing it in for a long night and what they anticipate to be a speech by a truly gifted young orator, gifted social media presence, turned mayor-elect of New York City, and that would be Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani.